welcome to Three Inning Fan, the podcast with me, Kelley Franco. My guest today needs no introduction. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest catchers and players to play the game. He is a New York icon. Mike Piazza, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Tell me, what are you up to these days?
Oh, not too much. Just raising kids. I'm been said before. A lot of people know I've spent a lot of time in Europe now. So I put my kids in school there before the pandemic. My wife and I just wanted something a little different and to expose them to languages and being of Italian heritage. I was able to get my citizenship there. So obviously, Italy was probably the easiest country, even though they do travel a lot. And when you're in Europe, obviously things are a lot closer than the US, different countries. But yeah, I mean, it was just going to be like a 2 year sort of project. And then the pandemic hit. And then after the pandemic, it felt kind of incomplete to us. We're like, well, what do we do now? So we just kind of stayed. And then my daughters fell in love with a school in Switzerland, in Lugano, Switzerland, and they started going there. And my son is still in Italy, but my oldest just graduated, and I said last week she's going to attend Notre Dame University. So, being growing up Catholic, that's the top of the mountain here. So I'm really proud of her, and so I'm officially a Go Irish Notre Dame fan. So I'm officially a fan now, and I get to have all the fun because I don't have to study, but I can enjoy going to the games. I don't have to do any of the work.
They're going to love having you there and having her there. She must be super smart. That is not an easy school to get into.
Yeah, I got to give her all the credit in the world. I mean, she probably inherited some of my work ethic and my father's work ethic and my wife's work ethic. And it's just part of it. It's kind of a blessing and a curse. I mean, nothing really has ever come easy for our family. And she worked her tail off. I have to give her all the credit in the world. She actually loves athletics. She runs a little track, but she didn't get to run last year because she said, Daddy, I'm just studying all the time. I couldn't really do anything too much, extracurricular. She did some choir, and at the school they have to do the arts. But she said she studied so much, and obviously it paid off. And one of the things I think that really helped her was like her exposure to languages. She's speaks Italian fluently. She speaks very good French. She speaks Spanish. She had a roommate from Brazil, so she's going to Brazil this summer to visit her, and she speaks pretty good Portuguese, a little German. So I think that's the one thing for us that really I got to give my wife all the credit in the world, was because I think they're not brainiacs. There's a lot of incredible students there, but I think we had to try to do something to kind of put her a little bit in a different class, and the language thing really helped her.
That's the great thing about growing up in Europe and especially studying in Switzerland because they really cover a lot of languages there.
No, it's true, and they're tough. I mean, she did a study abroad a few years ago in Belgium where she actually spoke French outside of the house and lived with a family from Spain. So she spoke Spanish inside the house. So, I mean, that's the one thing, as you mentioned, about Europe that really helped her was the exposure to languages. And I mean, and even myself growing up in a conservative, just outside of Philly, obviously, the first time I heard Spanish, I think we played a team from Puerto Rico, and we were like, wow, that's a different language. I mean, I'm dating myself, but then living in Europe now, I mean, you don't think twice about hearing French, German, Italian, um, obviously some of the Eastern languages as well. So that's the coolest thing, and obviously it helped her. So we're over the moon.
What a great gift you've given her. That's wonderful. And you were the manager of the 2023 Italian World Baseball Classic team. Boy, you had to have been proud of how far they advanced in the tournament.
Yeah, we worked hard on that project, and it was. I had a great general manager. This guy, his name is Gianmarco Faroni, and he worked with MLB International in China, and is from Italy. He's Canadian Italian, and he's a big into hockey, big into baseball. He's very multifaceted, and we just started this project. We said, listen, we're going to try to get the best players that we can, that we think are going to make an impact, and not necessarily the biggest names, because that tournament is a little different. I mean, I talked to Joel Sherman recently, and he sort of expressed that he loves the tournament, but there's really no perfect time of the year to do it. And spring training is obviously difficult because a lot of guys just aren't ready. So we kind of went with some younger guys that were eligible. And since then, the citizenship requirement has changed. So the rules have changed a little bit and things have changed. I'm not going to do it next year. I really wanted to, but things changed politically there. And honestly, it's a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work, and I have a lot of other things going on, and I really enjoyed it. I wish them well. But that was an incredible experience. I mean, we had like a young Sal Frelick. We had, obviously Matt Harvey, I thought was the story of the tournament for us. His mother's family is from Lazio, and Bendite is his name. So his mother's maiden name. So he was eligible, and he pitched great. I actually felt really bad for him because I thought he pitched well enough to get another shot, with the team, but it didn't materialize for him. But it was fun. I mean, when you play in front of the Tokyo Dome in front of 55,000 people, and in front of I think the TV audience was close to 70 million people in Japan for that game, is something we're very proud of.
You should be. Well, it's going to be different for them in 2026 because they won't be able to sneak up on anyone after your performance in 2023.
Yeah, and again, my job there is it's hard to explain to people, but baseball, or at least sports in Italy, it goes through the Olympic Committee. So you have a national federation, and the new president is a guy who actually managed the team before me. His name was Marco Mazzieri, and so he's the president, and he just has a lot of guys that he wanted to work with, and I had a completely autonomous sort of. They just kind of let me do what I want there, and so I just said at this point, I didn't really want to get into the newness of working with people I didn't really know, and again, it wasn't really even a bad thing. I said, listen, I enjoyed it, and they want to go a different direction, and quite frankly, I'll always love international baseball. I mean, I think it's going to be a good tournament. Obviously, the fans love it. And it's going to be difficult. I mean, it's going to be difficult for a lot of teams because now, as you mentioned, teams are not sneaking up. I mean, they know the players are getting more prepared. They're practicing earlier, so they're honing their skills and becoming more sort of ready for the tournament, where in the years past, you could tell guys weren't just really clicking. It was very early in spring training. So now guys are getting ready for that tournament. So as you mentioned, I think it's going to be exciting, and I look forward to watching it. It's a lot less pressure watching.
Oh yeah, it's going to
When I
seem
was
great.
managing, I'm like sitting here going, "What do I need this for?" It was, and the games were a lot of fun. I mean, one of the things I remember was in Taipei in Taiwan. We were playing Taiwan, and at the stadium there, in Taichung, I think it was, and it was just, you couldn't hear a thing. I mean, they literally cheered the whole game. And I was trying to yell things to guys, and I couldn't hear across the dugout, let alone to the field. So it was an incredible experience. They have cheerleaders. They do cheers the whole game. You couldn't hear a thing. I mean, it was incredible. And we didn't play well, and it kind of really hurt us because I think if we would have won that game, or at least played better there, and then we lost a tough game to Panama, we probably would have been playing Australia in Japan instead of Japan, and we might have snuck through. But nonetheless, it was still an incredible experience. I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, speaking of Italy, I was hoping to pick your brain on the role of Italian Americans in Major League Baseball because I really think that you have got to be one of the most qualified people to talk about this issue. So, I mean, maybe you could start a bit by telling us a little about your own Italian heritage.
Yeah, I mean, my father's family is from Sciacca, Sicilia, which is obviously on the island of Sicily. And my father was drafted in the Korean War time in the 50s, I believe it was like the early 50s. And he surprisingly, I mean, he just fell in love with baseball. I mean, I think years ago, and I read a lot about this in my experience of researching some history about Italian American ball players, is when the immigrants came over here, especially the you know we wanted to be sort of American. We wanted to kind of prove our Americanism. And obviously, baseball at the time was the premier sport, especially in the 20s and 30s with Babe Ruth and the big names of those era, Jimmy Fox and all those other guys. And so Tony Lazzeri, right, was from the Yankees, was actually that was by design. When you read that story, the management of the Yankees at that time wanted to have an Italian ball player because of the Italian American community in the area at that time. So they signed Tony Lazzeri, and which led to Joe DiMaggio, which led to Rocky Calavito, which led to all of these other names. Yogi Berra, of course. I mean, there was a movie I think a few years ago on Yogi Berra, and I recommend it highly for people. It's really, really cool. It's like a documentary, and it just paints the history of of Italian American ball players. I mean, because I think the incentive was, or at least the desire was to prove their Americanism, and they really wanted to gravitate. They gravitated towards baseball because baseball at that time was the most sort of popular sport. And I mean, the names go on. I think it goes deep. It goes deep, and it's something that inspired me even when I was young. I mean, I think so. I remember, one of the players my dad loved, he's with the Giants, was John the Count Montefusco, which, I think he pitched for the Yankees, I believe, as well. So, yeah, every time at the game, my dad would go, I like that guy, he's Italian. I like that guy, he's Italian. So and then obviously Tommy Lasorda, going as a kid, as far as my experience with Tommy would always do that as well. He would have that.
You had a special relationship with Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy and my father grew up together. I mean, it's been documented many times. And Tommy was a little bit older than my father, and then Tommy went off to baseball, and my dad went into the Army and went into other. Obviously, had to work, and so I remember my father telling me stories every time the off season. Tommy would come back to the Philadelphia area, and they would get lunch and hang out. And and I remember Tommy used to tell the story that when he would say, "Hey Vince, let's go," and my dad would say, "Hey Tommy, wait, I'm trying to sell this car so I can get some money so we can go eat," And it's just those days of really sort of bootstrapping it, and the struggles of growing up in that environment are well documented. But they were best friends. And then I remember as a kid, I think it was 1976 was one of my first games at the vet. And Tommy was coaching third for the Dodgers. And he came over to say hi to my dad. And it had such an impact on me because I was standing there by the rail and I was looking up at Tommy, and I'm like, wow, my dad knows one of the coaches, and it made an impact on me. And then as I got older, and Tommy became the manager, he would make me the bat boy. So yeah, I mean, the experience runs deep, and it inspired me at a young age. It really inspired me, and it gave me that hunger to want to try to make it to the major leagues.
Well, I think it's so beautiful how baseball has been such a part of the Italian American history here in this country, and vice versa, with Italian Americans being so much a part of baseball. Like you said, the iconic names Tony Lazzeri, Rocky Colavito, Yogi Berra. And you're right, that was an incredible documentary. And not for nothing, but he was also an American hero storming the
Sure.
beach at Normandy.
No, and it's funny. I mean, the story as well. What I was going to allude to is that even though my dad was Italian American, and he loved Yogi and he loved Joe DiMaggio, he really had a special place in his heart for Ted Williams. And I mean, just would love Ted Williams, and Ted Williams obviously being a highly decorated fighter pilot in World War II and the Korean War. And I think it was John Glenn said he was the best wingman that he's ever flown with. And so that's obviously a very high compliment coming from one of the greatest aviators in history. So yeah, and I think it was just also sort of my dad loved the fact that he just had this incredible, I guess he had this obsession with hitting 400, and that's why he really loved Ted Williams. It was something for me. And as I started becoming a hitter, that was something I really prided myself on, was hitting for average. I mean, I just hated striking out. I liked putting the ball in play. I mean, years ago, I'm dating myself, and we talk a lot online and have these debates about the game and how it's changed. But I mean, I remember as a kid, it was choke up, put the ball in play with 2 strikes. And you
Right.
don't hear that as much anymore.
You don't.
So,
People don't hit for average anymore, and
yeah.
it's too bad. I miss those days because I hate, as a fan, I hate seeing the strikeouts too.
Well, and again, I tell people, I mean, in 3 years with the Dodgers, I hit 336, 356, and 360, and I finished third in the batting title every year because
Crazy.
I was playing behind, obviously, with Tony Gwynn and Larry Walker and the guys from Colorado, and it was just something. I mean, that we average home runs and RBIs. That was just the three numbers really that kind of everyone concentrated on. But I mean, getting back to the Ted Williams thing, I just remember, my dad thought it was just incredible that he hit 400. I mean, it was just something that he really, I mean, probably will never happen again. Probably. I mean, I would say most likely. It's just one of those things that I think will never be achieved again.
I think there's a very good chance that you're right. And one record I also think will never be broken is Joe DiMaggio's 56 game hitting streak. Speaking of Joe DiMaggio, I mean, that it just seems like it would be impossible to break right now.
Yeah, I think the attention and the sort of day to day exposure would be extremely intense. I remember when I think Pete Rose is when I was a kid, right? I think he had a 44 game hitting streak, and I think it ended in Atlanta. And I think Gene Garber struck him out to end the game. And I mean, they celebrated like it was an accomplishment. We stopped Pete Rose's hitting streak. And I mean, you think about that was an impressive streak. And yeah, look, streaks are tough because of the day and age with the attention. I mean, if you ever got to a hitting streak in the 40s or even close to that, every at bat would be panned to, and it would be an incredibly intense pressure cooker, for the hitter to do that. So if probably not going to be broken, but you just, never say never. That's what I always say.
My mother was a huge Joe DiMaggio fan, and so my mom was born here in the States, but her parents were from the island of Ischia off the coast of
Mm,
Naples.
Amalfi.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful area. And they were huge DiMaggio fans. And I think that going back to the Italian American role, it was a way for Italian Americans to assimilate into American culture at a time when maybe they were trying so hard not to be outsiders and maybe their parents didn't speak the language. And that was probably a kind of an isolating feeling. But you get out there on the ball field, and baseball is, it's almost like a universal language.
Sure. No, and even if you fast forward that into the 90s when the Dodgers signed Hideo Nomo and his impact, it's I think it's his 30th anniversary of his debut this year. And I'm actually a little surprised that they're not really honoring him a little bit more than they are, because I think he was another pioneer in that as well. But yes, what you said is true. I mean, going back to those days, I'm sure when the Italians came here, as you mentioned, probably a lot of them didn't learn English quickly. The kids probably learned more English in school when they started going to school, so they felt a little bit ostracized at times, and so they wanted to sort of assimilate that way. And it's a different dynamic, a different sort of energy in the 90s with the Japanese players coming over. But I mean, same thing with Chan Ho Park. I mean, I played with the Dodgers when Chan Ho was signed, and there was a lot of attention on him. So and all this leads to the popularity of the classics. So I mean, it's not easy because we come from a baseball culture, and one of the things that I've learned, at least being abroad and seeing how difficult it is to develop the game abroad, is because we play a lot of games. I mean, I always laugh Europeans when they go, "Well, how many games you guys play in a season?" And I say 162, and they can't believe it. I mean, especially from a soccer culture. I mean, they play once a week or two home games a month, so they cannot understand that. I mean, it's the funniest thing because they go, "Oh, you played American baseball?" I go, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, how many games are?" I said, 162, and that's just blows their mind. So that shows how difficult our sport is, and so it is sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's definitely encouraging to see that the game has grown worldwide with things like the classic, but it does present its issues because, I mean, I think a lot of the kids that are watching this game realize how difficult it is. And so it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of practice.
For sure. Now, when I was kind of researching for this beat up, I noticed that in your Hall of Fame speech, you credited your Catholic faith for a lot of your success. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about whether or not you think there's a role for faith in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, if you play baseball and you don't have faith, then I mean, I don't know how you can play baseball without having that because it's a game based on failure. And for me, it's always just been part of my life. I mean, it's been something my mother was so adamant about. I mean, I tell people, some people don't know I'm only half Italian. My mother is actually Slovakian. So Slovakia is it's like a 95% Catholic country, and Slovakians in the United States are very devout. And she was like that sort of person. I mean, she would drag us off the beach in Wildwood, New Jersey to go to church, and on Saturday evening, and it was like 100 degrees in there, and everyone's fanning themselves, and during lead, she was like, you can't have me today, don't eat me today, and it was just part of it. Was we Even though you go through this rubber band relationship sometimes with your faith, for me, I tell people it also works like through osmosis. So I tell, at least for my kids, I mean, it's been the single biggest thing that I love doing with my children is taking them to church on on Sunday, sometimes Saturday evening, having lunch afterwards. Like that's our day. And that's something I've always enjoyed that with my daughters. It's like, get off the computer, get off the phones, go to church, have a nice, pasta lunch after church, have a glass of wine and talk. And yeah, and that's just so for me. It's always been a source of comfort. It's always been something that, and again, they say, well, you don't like to preach. To me, I think my idea is like you live your faith with joy and sometimes preach because if people see how much it means to you and how much you enjoy it, how much peace it gives you, you're automatically preaching. You don't have to give a fire and brimstone sort of sermon, and yeah, it's been throughout my career. And again, like I said, I mean, I had my issues as far as stardom and I coming up in LA and making money and being exposed to Hollywood and all the parties and all the things that go with it. And it just never left me. I mean, I say that we try to leave, but it never leaves you. And so that's just something for me that's just been a complete source of peace and has given me just inspiration. And again, I think it's just sort of it's just in your fiber. And so I tell people don't always be discouraged if your kids you don't feel like your kids are on board because I think sometimes it really just starts to go through osmosis.
I think I was in college before I realized that there were people who didn't on Sundays get up and go to church and then watch football and eat and go to grandma's house. I mean, apparently there's something else to do on Sundays, but I had no idea that there was until I was like 18.
I know, and that's a beautiful thing because again, I just feel like for me, it's just the weekend feels incomplete. I mean, that's just something for me, and going through all those other things too, like the first communions, the confirmations and things like that, and just building your family sort of culture around those events and holidays, and it's just something, as I've said. I mean, I think what we do sometimes is we expect too much, or at least we expect lightning bolts and epiphanies, and it's not like that. I mean, it's sort of a long walk. It's like a long journey, and you're going to go through ups and downs. And but at the end of the day, it's just like even being in New York. I'm in town for the show this weekend. Just I love going to St. Pat's during going to noon mass. I walk in there and usually it's like a high mass, so it's only like 15 or 20 minutes, and it's just something I enjoy. And I see so many people come looking at me and they're like, "Hey, Mike," and I just go in there. I bless myself, go in, light some candles, and it's really part of the that I enjoy about New York. And it's the great thing is that they make it easy for us. So you put the time in. I mean, you got to put the time in. I tell people it's never going to be instantaneous, but yeah, it's been a huge part of my life.
And now, when you were on those great Mets teams in the late 90s and, of course, 2000, you had some Italian American teammates, right? You had Johnny Franco, who I
Sure.
still have no idea if I'm related to him or not.
I was going to
And you,
say, I
yeah,
was going to ask you before.
I had a crazy old aunt who used
Mhm.
to think our grandfathers were brothers, but I don't know if it's true or not. But then you had
Mhm.
Matt Franco, too.
Yep.
Was Robert Ventura Italian?
No, actually, he wasn't. I think he was kind of Spanish
Okay.
descent
And
because
Bobby,
I'd asked him several times,
uh,
and I remember him saying, "No, I think yeah, Ventura's kind of like maybe Spanish, has some ancestry from Spain, but he's still a great guy nonetheless."
yeah, he does seem like a great guy. And of course,
Yeah.
there was Bobby V. Now, did you guys ever have like an Italian family dinner on the Mets?
No, but we ate out a lot. We one of the things for us was when we went on the road. I mean, that's when we had the most sort of bonding. I mean, when you're home, obviously the guys have kids and you have families, and um, but when we were on the road, we I mean, that's the sign of a good team. If a team really gets along, is if guys are hanging out together, and it's there's problems sometimes when you get to a town and everyone just goes, their own different ways. And that's one thing we always enjoyed. And Johnny was I mean, he's a New York icon, and coming from Brooklyn and playing for his hometown team and St. John's, and a guy who was gutsy. I mean, didn't have a lot. I mean, he wasn't huge. He wasn't this big, overpowering lefty. He was this little guy with a screwball, and just competed every day. And he just, we loved getting guys together. We really enjoyed it, and it was like, yeah, especially when you travel to some of the towns that don't have the best Italian, you have to kind of make do with what you have. And so, but that was for us was the one things that we did on the road was kind of get together. It was the most fun we had.
I always kind of wondered that with teams when they go on the road, like if they all go out to dinner together afterwards, or if they're like little satellite groups that go out, or some guys who always do their own thing.
I think teams need to encourage that. When I did the classic last year, we all kind of congregated together. I forced us together. I think so. Every manager is different. I mean, I think in this day and age, guys change teams often, and you don't have the same sort of legacy guys that are with the team for their whole careers. However, everyone does know each other. It's a big fraternity, but as a team building concept, personally, I think it's important. And if I was managing, I would encourage guys to get together. And yeah, I mean, one of the teams that I played for actually was 2006 San Diego Padres, and after 8 years in New York, that was really sort of a breath of fresh air for me. And we had Trevor Hoffman and Brian Giles and Young, Adrian Gonzalez, and some really good ball players on that team. And we had some characters, and we had fun. We had fun. We got together. Brian Giles was kind of like the unofficial team leader, and he always had sushi in the clubhouse after games, and it was really cool. And so we won the division that year. We ran into a hot Cardinals team with Albert, and they ended up winning the World Series that year. But that was a fun year. But I remember that team being eating all the time and going out all the time and getting together.
That must have been such a change to go out to San Diego from New York.
Oh, it was. I always tell the story. I came close. One of the things I think I wrote in my book is after April, it was the end of April, and I was struggling, and I was going to retire. And I mean, I called my wife at the time, and I said, listen, I'm sorry, but I have such a high standard. I'm not going to go through this season and just stink it up. I think I was hitting like 120. I think I had one home run. And I talked to Bochy about it, Bruce Bochy, and he was like, well, it's up to you, big guy, whatever you want to do. And he said, listen, he goes, you always have a good May. He's like, why don't you give it one more month and see? He goes, we're going to Chicago. Obviously, just go see what happens. And I went in Chicago in a doubleheader. I went 6 for 8 with like 2 home runs. And so, needless to say, I put off retirement for another year. But that was, and after that, it was really great. I mean, we had a lot of fun, and it was a shock. I was actually going back to that time when I was struggling. I remember coming from 8 years in New York, and I was like, oh, for like 15 at home or something. And the fans were like, you'll get him tomorrow, Mike. Don't worry about it. And I said, no, that's not how it works. You're supposed to tell me I suck and boo me. Like, San Diego fans are like, get him, you'll get him tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to say that. So I was in complete culture shock. I'm used to, like, I would be putting my head down and all the, you suck, retire. You're too old, you know? So that was a shock for me. But needless to say, I worked my way out of it and ended up having a good year. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, played for Boch, who ended up winning 3 World Series. And I was sad I couldn't stay. I mean, I went to Oakland, which wasn't, I did retire the next year after the next season. But I said to Boch, I go, take me with you. And he's like, I can't, big boy, because I'd love to. But, I was happy to at least play for him for 1 year. He's a great guy.
Future Hall of Famer right there.
It was amazing. We really was great. I mean, and some managers, I mean, you could see why he's got, 4 World Series. I mean, he's amazing. He just has this incredible ability to inspire you without sort of pounding on you. And he just has this really subtle leadership, and he's funny, and he lets you work yourself out as far as, but he's funny too. I mean, he would say to me one time, he'd say, you're hitting against this guy. And I was like, it's not too good. He goes, it's horse crap. He's like, you're not playing today. He goes, be ready in the 8th. And I was like, all right, Skip, thanks a lot. So yeah, he had a really good style. He was fun to play for.
No doubt. So successful. Okay, I thought we could do some rapid fire Italian American questions. And I tried not to make them all about food, but I kind of failed. But a couple of non-food ones. Ready?
Okay.
Braciole, pork or beef?
Beef.
Do you call it sauce or gravy?
Sauce.
Pasta or macaroni?
Pasta.
Salad before or after your meal?
Before.
Thick crust or thin crust?
Sottile, thin.
St. Anthony or St. Francis?
St. Francis of Assisi. That's where I was born. Sorry.
Oh, boy, you're never going to find anything again. I can't believe you just picked against St. Anthony. Can the Pope help the White Sox?
Ooh. Yeah, he will. He'll help them a little. I don't know if he's going to get him a title, but he's gonna help them.
I keep seeing these images of the Pope like cheering White Sox, and I never know if they're AI generated or not, but I love them whether or not they're real.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great to have a Pope who's a baseball fan. I'm hoping one day I get to have an audience with him. I've seen he's taken a lot of visitors, and so, I mean, people are giving him amazing presents, so I'm going to have to go into my collection and get him something. But I'm sure if I get him a Mets jersey, he's probably going to want a White Sox jersey. So, but I would look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about an American Pope who's a baseball fan. I never dreamed it was possible.
I was in shock. I think I'm still in shock, to be honest with you. I mean, I was watching it live, and then when they said Bravos, I was like, Chicago? I was completely stunned. I really was. And pardon the pun, came out of left field, but he's been really incredible, really inspiring. And all my Italian friends, I go, how's this Italian? They go, molto bene Italian. So they're really, really tough. Yeah, they said his Italian's incredible. Because I have a friend from Milan, Maurizio, before he got elected, he says, I said, well, what's your requirement for a Pope? And he goes, come on, he has to speak Italian. He goes, you cannot have a Pope that doesn't speak Italian. And so afterwards I said, what do you think of his Italian? He goes, molto bene Italian. So he's winning over a lot of the Italians, which are very tough critics, by the way.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to know the early returns are good.
Yes.
All right. So, Mike, we end every show here at 3 Inning Fan, the podcast, with a very important question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's good to eat while watching the ball game? Mike Piazza, what do you like to eat while you're watching the ball game?
Ooh, I'm going to go completely off the wall. I am so spoiled when I go to Citi Field and I get to be in Steve's box. And I just get to graze everything that he's got in his box there. So he's got La Frida steaks there. He's got Steak Shack. What is it? Shake Shack burgers, good wine. So, but at home, It's funny. At home, I really kind of kick a beer once in a while. I have a beer and some chips or some popcorn. So, yeah, there's something about watching a game and having a beer. I don't know. It's like I really don't get inspired to have a beer. And I'm at home, of course, which is good. But yeah, it makes me feel like I'm at the ballpark. Except I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
paying $10 for watered down suds like at the ballpark.
right. I always say I love watching games at home because the food's cheaper and
Yeah, I
everything's
know. And the
better.
beer's not water
Yeah.
for for $20. I always was, but no, it's I still love the game. It's tough being in Europe, because like when I'm waking up in the morning, take my son to school, and then I got to get online and see what happened. And some of the West Coast games are coming in, so it's not always easy being in Europe. But yeah, I'm pulling for the team this year. I mean, I think it's gonna be a long year. I don't get on the roller coaster like some people do. I mean, check the numbers at the end of September. I think because this season's a marathon and there's a lot of ups and downs.
Well, you have a whole different perspective than us fans, and you really know what it's like to be on the inside and what a grind it is.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is. It's like you think about it, how a season can change in these next 2 months. I mean, we're not even into July yet, and you have July and August. It's dog days. They're dog days for a reason. As a team, I think those are the times you really have to. That's where you sort of separate the wheat from the chaff. The teams that are going to play when you're going through these tough times, injuries. The weather's getting hot. It's not always easy to be consistent, but that's the test. That's why we play 162.
Great to have your insights today, Mike. And I have to say, truthfully, you are someone who has a place in the hearts of every New Yorker.
Thank you. That's very kind. I'm very spoiled. I've been walking down the streets, and I saw a guy just today. It was funny. I was walking down the street. The guy's like, "What are you doing walking down the street?" I said, "I'm getting a shirt. I'm getting a coffee." Like, well, what do you think I'm going to sit in this traffic? I guess they figure you're going to be sitting in a SUV on Fifth Avenue, in the middle of traffic. So I love walking the city. I mean, that's one thing I'm very blessed to have played here 8 years and come back and still work with the team and be able to come back to the capital of the world. I mean, New York City, and walk around and meet a lot of Yankee fans too. Not hate, they're always very nice. Of course, they got to tell me they're Yankee fans. Mike, I like you. I'm a Yankees fan, but you were okay. So I always that's always nice to hear. So love Yankee fans as well. They always come up and they're very kind. So I'm very blessed and I appreciate the
My Mike, I'm a Yankee fan, but I married a Mets fan,
time.
which my Mets fan friends like to tell me I married up.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great. Living in Europe, you'd be surprised because the soccer rivalries over there. It actually makes the Yankees and the Mets rivalry look like just two brothers having a little spat. Because over
Oh,
there,
funny.
between Inter and Milan and Lazio and Rome, it's like they want to kill each other. I mean, I know we don't when we're playing the Mets and the Yankees, it's always kind of really intense. But over there, I think it's definitely an eye opener. But it's great for the city. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Subway Series this year. I'm always watching when those games happen.
Right? It's coming right up. Mike, you have been so generous with your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really a pleasure.
My pleasure, and good luck with all your endeavors. I really enjoy following you and your passion for baseball. It's really heartwarming.
That's so kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Piazza, Hall of Famer, and someone who we all know and love. And thank you. I will see you all at the next show.